Timing of entry and first mover advantage. These two factors are among the most important things that you need to consider when crafting your go-to-market strategy when you are promoting a new product development to enter into a new market. Or in case of a startup, the timing of entry will be even more, because will be not only for the new product development, but will be also the timing of entry of a new venture, the venture creation. Why is this so important? Timing of entry can literally determine whether a company will be successful or not, whether a company will win or whether the company will eventually fail. Let me tell you a little story. In 1995, there was a company established that year, Newgrounds. Newgrounds was providing content generated by users, any type of content, video, but also artworks, games, and so on. So this was definitely a first mover entrant in the space. However, now we are delivering this lecture on YouTube. And the reason is that YouTube, even though was founded 10 years later than Newgrounds, when it became the go-to place, the go-to platform for user-generated content. Why did this happen? Well, there are, of course, a lot of reasons for this, but one key consideration is the timing of entry. When YouTube entered the market, technology, especially the enabling technology in complement goods and services, were so much more advanced. And these enabled the success, the long-term success of YouTube. So these are many of the factors that we need to consider. In this lecture, we will see, first of all, the timing of entry, when to be a first mover, what are the advantages of being a first mover in the market. We will also see when to be a second mover to the market, a late entrant to the market, and what are the advantages of adopting this strategy, because in some circumstances, this strategy is actually also a good one. We will also see the factors, including market and industry factors that can influence the timing of entry. For each market or each industry, there is a specific timing of entry. For example, industries with high barriers at the entry, in this case, you may want to delay a bit your timing of entry because this could be actually a good strategy. But for industries with very low barriers of entry, so if you delay, then when you enter into the market, it will be already a red ocean, so with all the competitors already there. So these are the things we're going to see in the video: the timing of entry, the factors to consider, and finally, the most suitable strategy for companies to enter in the market. First of all, let me give you some definition of the key roles that we are going to examine in the video today. First movers. So first movers are the pioneers, are the ones that are entering in the market as first. These companies are testing the 2S curve of technology performance and technology adoption. So they are pushing the performance of a technology to a higher grade, and we are also pushing for the adoption of new innovations by users. Then we have the early followers. So these are companies that enter early in the market, are, let's say, the second movers in the market. And then we have all the late entrants up to the laggards. The laggards are the ones that will enter in the market at a very adult stage. So when the product already, it definitely reached almost the entire potential. So, of course, this lecture will primarily focus on the first two, the first mover and the second mover into the market. Is it always an advantage to be a first mover in the market? The answer is depends. So let's see when and how can we make the first mover and advantageous strategy for the company. So we need to consider a few elements. So the first element is the brand loyalty and the technology leadership. So what are we referring to here? So if you are the one entering in the market first, so then you can establish your technology as a foundational technology in that market. You can also shape what are the customer's expectations. And of course, you can seek the legal protection for your technology through patents and other legal remedies. So all of this will contribute to your advantage as a first mover in the market. Second is the preemption of scarce assets. So if you enter as a first mover in the market, so then you can have access to some of the key resources in the industry and in the market. What could some of these key resources be? For instance, suppliers, the supply chain. You can get hold of a best supplier. You can lock in the suppliers in your value chain. The same goes for your distribution network, buyers, and so on. But also think of licensing permit from the government. Televisions, private televisions still need to seek a permit from the government to use the network. So if you are a private television, if you don't enter early in the market, then you will struggle later on. Or you don't even have access to the market, or you have access to some channels that are definitely, not the prime channels in the country. The third factor is to exploit the switching cost of buyers. So buyers, of course, encounter a lot of switching costs. Very first switching cost is that you already purchased a product, and so then if you want to switch to another product, it's a sunk cost. You invested in buying a new product, and then you are not happy, you need to switch to another one. But let me tell you a story also here. QWERTY keyboard. Why are we using the QWERTY keyboard? Look at your laptop, look at the digital keyboard on your smartphones. All of them are QWERTY keyboard. QWERTY are named after the letters Q, W, E, R, T, Y that define this type of keyboard. In the reason, we need to get back almost 200 years to find the reason for this. The reason is that when we didn't have laptops, tablet, smartphones, but only the typing machine, it was quite easy that the letters on the typing machine got jammed. And thereby, the QWERTY keyboard was invented for this purpose, to avoid letters getting jammed on the typewriting machines. And so then you may wonder, but why are we using this on PC, on a laptop, even on a digital keyboard on our smartphone? And the reason is this: buyer switching cost. People got used to the QWERTY keyboard. People are trained to use the QWERTY keyboard. Imagine you don't have your QWERTY keyboard, which you have been using since you were a child or even a baby. So you will need to completely switch. And so for almost 200 years, even though, interesting point, when we stopped using the typing machines, we didn't actually need the QWERTY keyboard any longer, because actually the QWERTY keyboard is good for the typing machine. It's good because it avoids the jamming letters, but it's actually bad for writing, because most of the words, especially in English, most of the words will be written with the left hand rather than the right hand, which is absurd. So we are giving a burden to the left hand, whilst most of us are actually using primarily the right hand. So we're using actually a suboptimal solution only for this reason. the buyer switching cost. And to an extent, we can see also probably the fact that being a first mover advantage, this became the dominant design for which we discussed in some other videos. And also to an extent, this became the standard shaping the expectation of users and consumers. The fourth factor is to reaping the increasing returns advantages. So we have seen already this concept. What are the increasing returns? Increasing returns means that the more a technology is adopted, the more value that technology will acquire. So this is essentially a self-reinforcing feedback. A self-reinforcing feedback which leads to a dominant design. And again, this could be the case of a QWERTY keyboard that became a dominant design, and it still is the dominant design, albeit not being the optimal solution. Having said this, now we need to move to see the first mover disadvantages, because it's not always that being a first mover is the best choice. So there are a lot of researches, a lot of studies that show that actually the second movers in the market are 3 times more successful than the first movers. Additionally, generally the first movers will face higher cost. Primarily, these higher costs will be in research and development. So all the research and development expenses to create the new product. Whilst the second movers can capitalize on the research and development on the S-curve of technology performance already adopted, already explored by the first mover. And the final point is that if you are a second mover, still you can compete against what we call as incumbent inertia. The incumbent inertia is the fact that generally large companies that are already in the market, that are the companies leading in the market, they are reluctant to change. And sometimes they can't even change because they are too big to change. So even if you are a second mover in the market, still you will beat these companies. Final point is also in terms of S-curve of technology adoption. If you are a second mover, you reap the benefits because you will see who are the early adopters in the market. And this will definitely help you to fine-tune the go-to-market strategy to gauge the interest of all your all the potential customers. Some examples of first movers, advantages and disadvantages. So here you can see some first movers versus the notable followers. And as you can see, in many cases, the winner was actually the notable follower. One famous case is video camera, 8mm video camera. Kodak was the first to introduce this, but was too early when people didn't really understand the benefit of this new technology. And the notable follower, Sony, was actually the one to win the market. But you can see a lot of other examples in this table and also in the following table. Many examples coming from technological consumer goods. An important point to always keep in mind is also the role of the enabled technology. So we know that for many new products to be adopted by the market, we need the enabling technology. The enabling technology is that technology which is necessary for the performance of a new technology, or that is necessary for the desirability of the new innovations. So enabling technology, together with the role of complements, drive the adoption of new innovations. Let's now get deeper into the factors that are influencing the optimal time of entry. And we can break them down into 9 questions. Let's start with the first question. First one is, how certain are the customer preferences? In both directions. So both in terms of how likely are the customer to like the new adoptions, the new innovations, how likely are the customer to adopt the new innovation, but also how likely is this innovation to be underestimated by the market. So let me give you an example of both. An example of an overestimation and in the other example of an underestimation. Overestimation. Early website. Many of you need to go back to maybe some YouTube videos to see how early website in 90s worked. For people like me, we can just remember early websites. All these early websites use audio, they use videos because they thought that this would have gauged the interest of users. Problem was that back in the days, we didn't have a Wi-Fi, we didn't have a 3G, 4G, and 5G. We actually had to connect through a LAN cable. It was cumbersome to have access to internet. Having this audio, having the video made the website extremely slow because people didn't have access to high-speed internet. In many cases, high-speed internet was not actually even available. Maybe some high-tech companies had some better technology, but for normal consumers, there was nothing like this. Overestimation. Opposite case, the underestimation. The underestimation you can see here is the first PlayStation 2 developed by Sony. So the PlayStation 2 had this interesting feature. You can use the CD and the DVD. And again, for people who were not young teenagers in the 90s, so CD and DVD back in the days were the two main tools that you use either to listen to music, watch movies, and also to play games. Generally, games were on CD, movies were on DVD. So what happened is that Sony underestimated that people would have loved this double feature. People love it so much that when they start buying the PSP only for the DVD function. So they use it as a DVD player. So they bought the PlayStation 2 as a DVD player, which was actually a problem for Sony because Sony sold the PlayStation 2 at a subsidized price because then they wanted people to buy the games and the games would have been much more expensive. So typical strategy which we have already seen, Razer and Blades. One product sold with subsidies and then the other charged extra. The same of a Blade and the Razer, right? So the Razer, cheap price, Blade, bloody expensive. Or an espresso capsule for what matters. So this was actually an underestimation and led to a problem later on. Second question, to determine the factors influencing optimal timing of entry. How much improvement does the innovation provide over prior solutions? Here we need to recall the concept of a technology utility, the stand-alone value of a technology. And we know that when a technology has a superior standalone value, which is so much better than not only the prior standalone value, but also the install base and all the network effects of a prior technology. So then people will move on and will adopt this new technology. The third question is, does the innovation require enabling technology? And are these technologies sufficiently mature? So here we need to look at the other technology that will speed up the adoption of our innovation. An example can be the batteries. Batteries for EV cars, if batteries are not so durable, people will probably not buy electric vehicles. The same goes for mobile device. So people will love to have batteries that will support the usage of mobile device for a longer period of time. The fourth question regards complementary goods. Do complementary goods influence the value of innovation, and are they sufficiently available? So when you're introducing a new innovation, especially if your new innovation does not have a superior standalone technology utility, so in that case, if you only provide an incremental standalone value compared to the previous value of a technology, so in this case, you need to plug your technology in the existing install base and use the new technology with the existing complements. However, we know that this is also a way we can increase the adoption of a new technology. So just an incremental standalone technology utility of a new innovation. And then if we have the other two elements, so that we can plug in the install base and in the existing complements, so then people will adopt this new technology. An example is the standard rolls 35 millimeters for cameras. This was the standard for many, many years with slight improvement in the technology. So people didn't have to change the rolls for the cameras, and they always use the same type of cameras. Question number 5. How high is the threat of competitive entry? So here we need to examine a few factors. One is whether there are high barriers of entry or not. When there are high barriers of entry, so in this case, we can wait and see, because we know that not many companies will be able to enter in the industry. However, this very same strategy, when there are no barriers of entry, might actually be problematic. So in this case, we actually need to grasp the right moment to enter into the market before the market becomes too competitive. Question number 6. Are there increasing returns to the adoption? Increasing returns to adoption refer to the install base of the innovation and the network externality. Also here we need to consider the learning curve, the prior learning curve that your firm managed to achieve by entering the market, and finally whether your innovation was able to achieve the dominance in terms of design, so was able to provide the dominant design in the industry. Moving on to question number 7. Can the firm withstand early losses? What we know of first mover is that when you enter the market, you will bear losses due to the research of investment. So this is typically represented by the S-curve of technology diffusion. At the very beginning, there are not so many people that are adopting the new technology, so you need to be able to withstand this period that might be actually be brutal, and you may bleed during this period. An example, and again the example comes from the 90s. I'm not sure if many of you saw this. This is a PDA, a personal digital assistant. These type of devices were incredibly popular in the late 90s. To an extent, this is a sort of like combo between smartphone and a tablet. It was kind of like the mainstream device for top executive, for elite executives in multinational companies. So all of them used this type of devices back in the late 90s. However, some firms that only offer this device could not withstand early losses. The reason is there was an age of turbulence. There was no dominant design back in the days. There were only very, very early adopters. Most of them were just, executive of big firms. How many elite executives in big multinational companies can you count worldwide? Probably a few thousand. Maybe we can go up to 100,000 globally. So back in the days was really a very niche market. So some companies could not withstand this, especially the one that only provided this device, the PDA, even though they were very technology advanced. Other companies like Motorola that had, very wide range of products, they could survive this. Even though the PDA was not successful, they were still selling other type of products, and this was actually okay. Question number 8. Does the firm have resources to accelerate the market acceptance? How can a firm accelerate market acceptance? So probably the best way to do so is through education. How can you educate your consumers to adopt the new innovations? However, it's not easy. It's expensive. It's a big investment that the firm need to do to increase the rate of adoption. Question number 9. Is the firm's reputation likely to reduce the uncertainty of customers, suppliers, and distributors or not? So there are some examples, and here you can find one of them, Microsoft gaming console, the Xbox. When Microsoft entered the gaming space, and Microsoft was a sort of latecomer in the gaming space compared to others. However, they had the reputation, they had the suppliers, they have a customer base, they have the distributors, and then they became equally successful. So this is an example of how the reputation in your existing network can help to speed up the adoption of new innovation. Let me add a few more academics on this, very quick one. This is from Professor Will Mitchell. So he studied for early 30 years what is the best timing of entry for companies. And here you can find his categorization. He basically identified 4 main categories for the timing of entry. The first one is only one firm can produce an inimitable good. So in this case, the firm can enter whenever and if the firm wants. However, if several firms could produce that same good, there will be a race to capture the market. So everyone will jump into the market to capture the value of the market. Second case is a good that is highly imitable. So in this case, firms may wait to see others investing and developing the market, and then they will jump in right when users are ready to adopt the new innovations. The third case is firms that are more likely to enter when they have specialized assets that can really tackle the pain point in the market or really push for the adoption of a new innovation. And the final case is that firms, and this was based on Professor Mitchell's observation over 30 years, enter earlier in a market when the core products were threatened by some newcomers in the market and they were potential new rivals. To end this video lecture, let's talk about strategies. How can we adopt strategy to improve timing options? What we know is that timing is of essence. If we get the timing wrong, we can actually get our innovation wrong. We can lose the race to become the dominant player in the industry. But also, if we wait too much, then this will also lead to pretty serious consequences. And then we will see that our competitors are catching up, and sometimes we are not even able to fill this gap. And so then we will be out of the market or out of that particular industry. So how can firms respond to this? They can't always get the timing of entry right, but they can adopt some strategy that can help them reduce the risk of failing in the selection of a time. So firms should have a fast cycle of development process. So in this way, either you are a first mover or you are a second mover, but then you can enter quickly in the market. This, of course, reduces the uncertainty, reduces the risk, because you can see firsthand how the market is reacting, and then if you have this fast cycle development process, then you can just enter the market. And then 3 other strategies that can be adopted by firms, especially by firms that are highly innovative. One is to create strategic alliances. Through strategic alliances, you can pool resources together. We will see this better in open innovation ecosystem. However, strategic alliance implies that you can move faster than your competitors through your network. The second one is cross-functional new product development. Cross-functional new product development means that you are using different departments and also different disciplines to promote your new product development. So you're cross-pollinating when it comes to your new product development. And the third one is to have a parallel development process. Parallel development process means that you are not only developing one product, but you are developing more than one in parallel at the same time. And as soon as you see that one of them is the right product for the right market at the right time, the right it, then you will prioritize this product development and you will enter the market in the right moment. Hope you grasp all the important concept of a right time to enter the market, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.